Hi there, all my students and interested parties. I get nice and tidy. There's only me recording here, so it's a little bit more difficult than if there was a group of people who would be helping me. Well, there isn't, it's just me. Over the last month or so, I have been doing Facebook and letting you know that I have been talking to God. And whilst that has not been a terribly comfortable position for me to be in, not the talking to God, because I love that, but letting you know that I'm talking to God, that has been quite difficult. When I first started doing yoga teaching, I received death threats, as I've told you before, because at the time yoga was just seen as something anti-Christian. And whilst that has changed somewhat, I believe that by saying that I am talking to God will not sit happily with some people. And I'm hoping it sits happily with you. At the moment, so many ideas and so many new things are crashing in on me because of the investigations that I'm doing into a line of thought, that I have suspended talking with God on the computer, and I've just been talking to God, him and me, or it and me, or whatever and me. And it's really important that I bring this information to you in the form of spiritual yoga or yoga philosophy. If you are living relatively close to me, and I live in Woodend, Victoria, Australia, if you're living relatively close to me, you might have had the opportunity of coming to spiritual yoga on a Monday afternoon at 1:45 at the Benting, which is now the home of yoga in Woodend. These have been stunningly wonderful opportunities for us to explore the ideas that have been coming to me, with a group of people who are prepared to think about them. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying that I totally understand. I'm saying that this new information makes a lot of sense to me, and I wonder if it makes a lot of sense to you. As you know, I deal primarily, a deal is a bad word, as you know, I work primarily with people who have addictions, anger issues. They are not fabulously happy people. And I know how to work with them from a counselling point of view on many levels, both from Christian counselling and general counselling. I've done all the diplomas, and it's kind of like when I moved from straight massage to doing Tibetan pulsing. Straight massage was working with the things that seemed to be the problem, but Tibetan pulsing worked with the nervous system. And that was where the architect of the problem was. But deeper than that is the connection that God has to this, and how we can get closer to God, and in getting closer to God, open ourselves up for more healing to take place. For the last number of years, I have been working with quantum healing, that's hypnotherapy, as taught by Dolores Cannon. She loved it. She loved it. And she loved it as a healing thing. Once she got past the hypnotherapy stuff and started working on healing people, she really started to understand what she was put on the earth for. These sessions sometimes took 7 hours. And it took the person back into significant days, and it works well. It works well insofar as it can go. But it takes the power of the process out of the hand of the person lying on the couch, and in a way delivers it to the hypnotherapist. The person on the couch can't do it by themselves. Not even Edgar Casey could do that. He needed a stenographer, and he needed somebody there to say, "Can you see the body?" After a certain amount of putting into hypnotic trance. So he wasn't able to do it on his own. But let me tell you something. You can. You can. You know how we talk about the law of attraction, made very popular by the book The Secret and the film? Well, I do believe that you, each one of us, are the law of attraction. Problem is, we've been attracting things that we don't know we're attracting. This is going somewhere, and it will make sense of lots of other things once you've got it. I think the best way for me to explain this is to talk to you about my own experience. My mother was a person who had been very hurt in her growing up. She was a 13th child, and it was too much of a drain on the family, and so she was shifted out and looked after by relatives, and they weren't very nice to her. And then this happened and that happened and something else happened, and she became a very damaged person. And you know, hurt people hurt people. And she hurt me. When I was growing up, I was able to explain and intellectualize the hurt away, I thought. But what I actually was doing was avoiding facing the emotional scar and the emotional issue. And it's not until we can deal with that emotional issue that the pain will go away and the healing will occur, after forgiveness, of course, and a little bit of repentance, depending on what applies. Anyway, back to my thing. So when I was born, at the moment of birth, well, we can go back a little bit further than that. My mother was not terribly thrilled with the idea of having children. She was very much a businesswoman. She didn't particularly want to get married. She only got married for society reasons. And so when I came along, I think it was highly problematical for her. And had there been a way to get rid of me that worked, she would have had a go at that. But saving face was really important, and I think there was a lot of those kind of things happening. So those emotions are transmitted to the fetus. Nothing happens in isolation. Then I was born, much to my mother's consternation. And as I was born and I came out of her, she held me up. I was handed to her by the doctor, and she held me out like this, you know, as mothers who are not terribly loving do. And she said, "Goodness me, what an ugly child. Is there any possibility we can send her back?" And then apparently she and the doctor had a lovely time discussing about various ways of sending me back, and I think the consensus was putting me in a shoebox and sending me up the river. She didn't do that because she was, how things looked were very important to her, and I don't think she would have taken any step that made it look like she had failed. So we battled on, and that is really what we did, with me trying to get her approval and trying to become beautiful. But I never could, of course, because even if she had changed her mind later on, what she told me created such a chasm between reality and that. I could never jump across it. I could never jump across it. And it's not a matter of intellectualizing it away. I could be very grown up, which I was, when she hurt me and say, well, she doesn't understand. I forgive her. But that hurt way, way, way back then. That hurt in the beginning when she held me up and said, this horrible child, that ugly child. That ugly child emotion had not been dealt with. So that ugly child emotion, God said way back, it has to be dealt with. But I wasn't dealing with it, and I wasn't looking at it. I didn't want to look at it. Who would? So, what happens when you don't look at something and you don't address it? The lessons get inexorably harder. And they did. And God sent these messages to me and these lessons to me of pain and pain and pain. But I kept intellectualizing them, but they just kept on getting worse. Because I didn't realize I had to address the first one. Can you see how this happens? God is just sending me reminders. We know we've come here to live lessons, and He was sending me lessons. Well, lessons were arriving. Karmic lessons, perhaps. Wherever you believe they come from, that's fine. But lessons were coming, attracted by the pain that I hadn't addressed. What I did to cover them up, you'll be pleased to know this, and I'm sure you've worked it out, that took me longer, is that I went down a path where beauty didn't count. I went down the path of success and of money. And then I had another problem, because yoga and success and money, there's a juxtaposition that's not fabulous either. But that wasn't going to get any better until I addressed the first problem. I'm just adding, things are piling on, piling on, piling on. I'm trying to be a better person by doing yoga. But I haven't addressed the first issue, and I'm out here being successful and wanting money. Am I going to be successful at wanting money or getting money? No way. No. That's not how it works at all. The more I want something, the more it runs away. And yoga, I love that because it just came to me and it allowed me to not particularly think about the problem without having to desire anything else. I didn't desire, I just experienced the yoga. But that wouldn't take away the problem. And the core of this whole thing is AHIMSA, isn't it? It's violence. My mother did a violent thing in response to violent things that were done to her. And I became a violent thing done to her. I was a lesson she had to learn from as well. Can you see how this piles up? Imagine if my mother had been able to express and forgive and work on that original hurt from her family, then I wouldn't have had, then she wouldn't have held me up and said, what an ugly child. She would have gone, oh, this is the child that I've longed for. You know, kiss, kiss, kiss. But she didn't do that because she couldn't afford to feel loved or loving, just in case hurt came, because she'd been hurt before. So she knew where it came from. It came from giving. So don't do that, she said to herself at some level. And she never did. I'm sure you know a lot of people like that. You know, when my dad went and put his arm around my mother, she went, I'm not going to give anything to him. And almost the last word I said to my mother, last word she had with me was, you know, I've lived a good life and I have never given anything to anybody. And for her, that was huge. She'd been in control of the whole game, she thought. But had she? No way. When I think of the pain that she drew towards her, and when I think of the pain that I have drawn towards me, it makes me want to fix it up quickly. It's not just a matter of 3 Hail Marys and 4 Our Fathers. It is not. If you are not really feeling emotionally drained and torn and crying about this thing, then you've gone to the wrong place to deal with the problem. If you can imagine, there's a number of balls. There's a ball up here, and that ball up there is mind and body. And then there's a ball out here, and that ball you can call God or pure love or, you know, pure bliss. And then over here is a ball called soul, your soul. In that ball is things like emotions, beautiful things in there. Between the God ball and the soul ball is a cord. And you know, in all the old books that's called the Holy Spirit, but that is the electrical line between you and God. It doesn't go up to the mind-body thing. It goes to the soul thing. So when we have these problems, we have to address them at a soul level. We have to stand outside and address it. Remember, in the Bible, anybody who's come to my classes over the last year will, they know how I've been pumping this, is in Genesis it says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, and it was good. Hang on a tick. That was before the sun and the moon were theoretically made. Well, according to the Bible. We didn't get up to that day. What I want you to think about is that, let there be light, is God was standing outside of the material, and that is where the light is. So if you want to find out, if you want to clear up the problem that you have, don't go to the material. You've tried that and it doesn't work. You've got to go to the soul thing. And you've got to peel and peel and peel back till you find that thing. And we're so good at covering it up. I was just a little bit angry, but it's okay. I was a little bit pissed off, but I'm right now. No, the cancer's got nothing to do with my divorce. Yeah, they happen the same month. But no, it's got nothing to do with divorce. Can I ask you a question about cancer? You can answer me any time you like on the email. The USA has spent trillions of dollars over the last number of years on their war against cancer. Has it made a significant difference? No, it hasn't. Why hasn't it made a significant difference? Because they're treating the cancer as if it is a product, and as if the cancer is a malformation that has happened that they have to get rid of. My theory is that that's not true. I haven't spent trillions of dollars trying to find this, but I don't believe that's true. And my experience with people leads me to believe that cancer is a response to damage that has occurred. And you won't find that damage with a hammer and a chisel and a scalpel and a laser and a this and a that and chemicals and radiotherapy and all that kind of stuff. No. You'll find that damage doing exactly what I'm asking you to do now. Is to go back and discover where the hurt was. And there's so much of it. It is a job. It is a job to go back there. How long did you think it took me to realize that it was those words that my mother said that had such a profound effect on me? A profound effect on me. That I have spent most of my life in the dark, telling myself that love didn't matter. Well, it does. It is the only thing that matters. Love is all there is, as the Beatles said. Sew that onto your t-shirt. Love is all there is, but we don't do much of it. And I have spent my whole life wondering what it was. I never felt it as a child, obviously. And then I spent a whole lot of time saying it didn't matter. And then I spent a whole lot of time running away from it, doing other things that people couldn't criticize me for. And then I spent a whole lot of time covering the stuff up that I was successful at because that wasn't cool. So do you think I had to do a bit of digging? Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, I want to be here talking to you lot when I'm 100 and something or other. So addressing these problems that cause sickness and death are highly important to me. Apart from the fact that that feeling of being at one with the universe is really important. And you know, to diverge off the path a little bit, I meet people all the time whose doctors have told them they're bipolar or schizophrenic or this or that or the other, and what they are is they're very, very enlightened people who understand reality in ways that we never could. And once that is explained to them, they have somewhere to stand and somewhere to start understanding their life. I can tell you one story about that. I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories, and I've got lots of them. A friend of mine came to me. He's a man in his late 70s, so he's a man of experience. He's not flaky, professional. Yeah. Not particularly enamored of the more philosophical aspects of yoga, but interested. And we have talks from time to time. And he came and he said, you know, I've got a problem and I want to discuss it with you. I want something explained to me. Can you help me? And I said, oh, I love helping people, yeah. That's why I'm here. Tell me what the problem is. We should all have this problem. He said he was driving home from work along an ordinary road that he'd travelled many times before, nothing out of the ordinary. Lovely time of the evening, not dark, blue sky, no fog, no wind to speak of, just a bit of a wind. Just a beautiful, beautiful day. Driving along, loving himself, music turned up. And he turned into the dirt road where his house is at the end of this dirt road. Travelling down the dirt road, and he had to go over a little bridge. Just before he got to the bridge, life changed. It will never be the same again. He said that suddenly he realized he wasn't driving the car, he was the car. And he wasn't just the car, he was the road and the bridge and the water underneath the bridge and the sky and the tree and the birds. He was connected and a living part of everything. Now, this has been told to me by many people. This is not an unusual experience. Most people who have that experience get worried about it, go to their doctor, and that doctor gives them tranquilizers. But this guy is one of the few who have come to me. I thought it was a beautiful story. He said he doesn't know how long he was in that other place, but it seemed a very long time. But when he came back, the car was still running and he was still driving. He'd gone over the bridge. And he said, what happened then? What was that about? And I said to him, and I totally believe this, by the way, gang. I said, you are one of the treasured people who has experienced reality. This stuff here, the painting and the cushion and the seat that I'm sitting on and the camera and the room and that's the illusion. What you experienced, that oneness of everything, that is the real thing. That is the real thing. That is reality. No need to take tranquilizers for that one. And that realization has totally changed his life. He doesn't go down the road expecting reality to change. I'm sure he'd like it to, but he can now see the difference. And this illusion that we're living in needs to be understood. We've come here to learn lessons. The first one, and the one that Patanjali said that we have to learn before all else, is AHIMSA. It is the Yama that comes first. Thou shalt not kill. It didn't say don't murder, which is killing your own species. It said don't kill, which means don't kill anything. See, my mum would not say she was a murderer, but she was. She killed all kinds of things for me that I'm getting back, but she killed them, and I have to find them again. And the way to find them again is to truly and honestly, with emotion, not intellect, with emotion, sit down, connect with my mother spirit. She's there. And honestly and sincerely and emotionally, I can feel it now, apologize to my mother and ask for forgiveness and give her forgiveness. Because I was terrible to her. I was. I need her forgiveness. I caused her great pain. In response to that one pain, I drew pain to me and she drew pain to her. We killed so much in each other. AHIMSA, thou shalt not kill. Patanjali said that when you had got that, you didn't have to worry about any of the others. Everything else will just fall into place. But that takes some kind of mind to do. So concentrating on AHIMSA is really important. Standing outside, having peeled off all those layers and letting the light in. Let there be light, and there was. Let the light in. You have to stand outside to let the light in. It's like when Krishna was talking to Arjuna. And Arjuna says, well, if you're the person that you are, show me. And Krishna didn't just give him a book to flip through. He took him outside of the world and said, look at that. And then Arjuna understood how things really were. So we have to stand outside our world and peel back so that we can let the light in. Because all these pains, all these things that have attached themselves to us are coming between us and the divine energy of God. That is why people wrote the Bhagavad Gita. That is why people wrote the Bible. That is why Jesus came. That is why Muhammad came. That is why Buddha came. Buddha tried all kinds of things to hide the pain. He was in recovery. He would have come to Innisfree, I would have looked after him. He was in recovery. And what did he do? At the end, having tried everything, he sat under a tree and he said, I am going to find the reason for this or die. I'm going to find the way out of a suffering or die. Attachment. Attachment. Let go of things. Let go of what you think is real. Let go of all that stuff. Get back to the pain. It says if you read the experience of Buddha under the tree, all the demons came up and tried to thwart him and said, no, that's not how it is. This is how it is. Demons have been coming up for you all the time. You've been under the tree for a long time. Now you've got to deal with them. That's why a lot of people go away from meditation, because the demons come up. They can see them, but they don't want to deal with them. If you don't deal with them, the demons will overcome you. You'll never experience the closeness with the God that you're looking for. You never will. I would love you to, but you never will unless you deal with the origin of your pain and root around there and find it all. It takes a long time. I haven't found all of mine yet. And I've been concentrating. For me, it's very important. And I'm hoping it will be for you. Getting in there and finding the pain. Finding what is causing the disappointments in your life. I always pull men towards me that hurt me. Why is that? What have you got back there that you haven't addressed? That's pulling towards you guys that hurt you. AHIMSA. You're killing you, and they're helping, and they're adding to the pleasure. But you're pulling them in. It's not just them. If that pain wasn't there, you wouldn't be pulling them in. You know that. You haven't looked for the pain. I mean, just on a day-to-day basis. You've ordered a book. And the book is supposed to come in on Tuesday. And you really need the book because it's going to help you do an exam. So you go down to the bookshop and they say, no, the book hasn't come in yet. No explanation, just, no, the book hasn't come in yet. Probably coming in the next few days. So you get annoyed. Why do you get annoyed? You really don't. It's not hugely important. A couple of days won't make any difference. Why are you annoyed? You're annoyed because someone has done that to you before. And you've let it slip past the keeper. And they have maybe spent a week when you really needed it. So now we've got this problem. And although it's not hugely important, you're bringing the pain of the last problem into this. And you're annoyed, and you go out of the shop and you're annoyed, and you think, no, that's not very yogic. I mustn't be annoyed. I have to take control of my emotions. I mustn't be annoyed. It'll get here sometime or other. Instead of doing that, think about, why am I annoyed? What has gone before that's annoyed me? Yes, it was that book a couple of months ago, and it was, I bought a dress and that didn't arrive on time, and when I was 14 my mother said this, and when I was 7 my grandmother didn't do that. Search through and find out the source of your annoyance today, because your annoyance is bigger than required. What is causing it? What has attracted that lateness? And the funny thing is, when you go back and you address that problem, the book will arrive tomorrow. I know the book dealer said it's going to take 3 or 4 days, but you address the problem, you've taken away the resistance in the universe, and your law of attraction kicks in, and bingo, the book arrives. It's fabulous. It is wonderful. It happens to me all the time. When I address the problem and the attraction of pain is gone, then the good things start to roll in. That's the issue that I have with modern counselling techniques. They don't go back far enough. They go back a long way in obscure fashion, but they're not pointy enough. They don't say, ugh, that's the one you should be looking at. What really gets up your nose? It's that one. Let's unpack that one. No, they go back and they say, oh, your Aunt Susie, there's the problem. Aunt Susie, yes, she did this to you and that did to you and something. But it's not the first thing in your life you've experienced like that. You've got to go back to the first thing. Not to the one that Aunt Susie did to you when you were 15. What about when you were 7? What about when you were 3? What about when you were 2? Or like me, what happened when you came out of the womb and your mother said, oh, an ugly baby? People can't believe it when I say, all my life I've thought that I was terribly ugly. I knew it wasn't a logical thing. I have no illusions. I don't think I'm going to be on the front cover of Vogue. But I don't think I'm like a train wreck. But in terms of 1 to 10, I'd be too embarrassed to tell you what I think I was. Now I think I'm not too bad. Maybe a 7 for my age. On a good day, maybe 8. Okay? But I think that had you asked me when I was younger, I would have said 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. My beauteousness was 3. And I would have thought I was being pretty optimistic about that. When I think about my high school years, oh my goodness me, did I make some rotten decisions based on that understanding of myself? Shocking. It didn't help when my father said that my skin looked like a Christmas pudding hanging over a hospital balcony. You can see that my parents were not strong on a self-esteem help. But it wasn't just that, it was just everything. I just was attracting, because of this one thing, I was attracting it like mud. Magnetic mud. What are you attracting? AHIMSA. I mean, without yoga, I just wouldn't have found any of this stuff. Without yoga, I'd be floundering. I really would. I just don't know what I would have done. I would have been nuts. I'm sure I would. I would have been one of the ones on the antidepressants. But it's been yoga and contemplating all this fabulous philosophy that's made the huge difference to me. I make this invitation to you because I think this is so important. If you would like me to come and talk to a group for you, I would like to come and talk to a group for you. We would have to come to some arrangements with regards to money, that is for sure, because as much as I would like to do it for nothing, and I will try to do it as close to nothing as I can, there is travel and there is accommodation if that is required. Otherwise, you can come and visit me and we can do a one-on-one session in various ways, depending on the depth of your problem. Or you can come to spiritual yoga or philosophy classes. I would love you to come along, because these are the kinds of issues that we're dealing with, and these are the issues that are changing lives. And you know, I was listening this morning to a thing on, there's a book that's just come out. Now I've forgotten the name of the book. It's just come out. And it was written by a Jewish rabbi. And it's about the state of America at the moment. And it documents the various steps that have been occurring since 9/11 that shows, that gives you indications of the demise of the system. You know, one problem after another problem after another problem. And people, instead of looking at the problems, they're building higher walls and bigger buildings and you know, war on this and war on that, instead of looking at the problem. And I thought, it doesn't matter whether what I'm talking about is about you or about America or about the planet. If we don't address the problem at the core, then today is not going to look real good, and tomorrow is going to be even worse. We've got to look at the problem at the heart. And one of the problems is that we have lost sight of the fact that we didn't create ourselves, that we have been created by this energy force. Okay? We've determined to learn lessons. We've been created to do this and help others. We're not doing it because the God energy can't talk to the mind energy. We're plugging into the wrong connection. It would be like trying to get your computer to turn on when you're plugging the thing into the phone hook or the fridge hook or something like, you know, the fridge plug. No, the computer plug goes into the computer. It doesn't go into the fridge. You won't turn your computer on by plugging into the fridge. You won't solve your problems by plugging into the wrong thing. You won't be able to talk to God or understand the God energy if all you are doing is working out of the mind. You've got to start working out of the heart. Don't kill. Go back to loving. Go back to loving. And to do that, you're going to have to start working out of the heart and not the head. Someone said to me 100 years ago, the longest journey human beings have to make is between the head and the heart. And they were right. I think I'll leave it at that, otherwise I'll go on for another 3 hours. I'm going to do more of these talks. I am. Honestly. And as I said, if you want to get into it more deeply with me personally, you can come to the spiritual yoga class at 1:45 on Monday afternoons at the Bentinck, or you can have one-on-ones with me. I love that. That's gorgeous. If you want the truth, do that. I don't fib. Or if you want me to come to you and speak to a group, then the group will have to want me, because you're going to have to